Revelation 942, from the 2nd of June 1939. Vocabulary. Self-suggestion. Transcripts. The vocabulary of man is enormous when it is necessary to record and write down eternal truths. It is remarkable in every way how often man is willing to believe that in the subconscious, the words slumber in the memory and are thus brought to light by self-suggestion. This is all the more erroneous, the more rarely man is able to draw from his own knowledge. A so-called suggestion would be possible only if knowledge is present in man, would be equals d. ed., but would be forgotten for some reasons, would have been forgotten equals d. ed. If, however, transcripts arise in an extent far beyond the knowledge of the person concerned, then all efforts of the doubters are in vain and every objection is invalid to find an explanation in this possibility. It must always be considered that the writer himself was completely isolated from any knowledge up to now and that the thought activity of the person concerned is not particularly taken up humanly, that therefore a known working of the thoughts does not come into question, but these thoughts come to the writer so to speak without the slightest effort and are received only by the will of the person. Every such announcement requires a teacher who is in full knowledge as the giver and an earthly child who is ready to receive. That is, who gives himself in full will to spiritual power. Only in such a way can its emergence be explained. While the so-called self-suggestion is still a term for the people whose complete explanation they cannot give themselves, because they do not seek to find the only correct solution building upon a spiritual basis, but they draw borders for themselves beyond which they are not willing to look, and can therefore never fathom the latter and therefore also not explain a process correctly which is to be explained, just only purely spiritually. The strangest suppositions have become the cause for the people to now fearfully frown upon every such influence of invisible forces. Because they do not completely understand them, they keep away from everything of this kind, instead of striving for clear knowledge about it. Only the man who demands to stand in fullest truth, is not content with such a deficient explanation, as indisputably always the words self-suggestion and subconscious will remain. For people, these words have become only a concept of something inexplicable. But if these words would be made understandable in the smallest detail, then they would suddenly not want to know any more, because in the end they would have to acknowledge spiritual activity and thus also go over to an area which they try to deny today. It is exceedingly difficult to give or receive information if a people do not stand in faith. Only faith is able to fill in the gaps that remain open for purely intellectual thinking. Therefore, mankind can never be taught better where faith is completely eliminated. For then the key to the truth is missing. And there is only one thing, to turn to the right source with full confidence, which lets clearest and purest living water flow out. And to close one's ear to all hostilities of this world. Amen.